Good morning, Oracles. Well, we've had crypto creeping up a little bit more over the weekend, so maybe we are going to see a green week and we can continue this rally going forward. We'll see how this all plays out. But the big focus this week for me is going to be Saturday, when we are going to get the production and delivery numbers for Q2 out of Tesla. Now, I was watching a few videos over the weekend and Warren Redlich had gotten into one of them where he was discussing something that many have said, including here on this channel, about how there really is no EV market. It doesn't exist. It's just something that was made up so that Legacy Auto and everybody else can show that they're better than Tesla. It doesn't exist. You've got, maybe within the automotive industry, and that's really what it is. It's the automotive market. And within that market, you're going to have trucks and SUVs and vans, and you can break it down that way. But all of those vehicles and all of those segments are eventually going to be EVs in the future. So whenever we hear bears talking about, EVs versus ICE, doesn't exist. Does not exist, because that means that Legacy is competing against itself. And reality is, they won't allow that to happen. So it is just an automotive market. So what market share does Tesla have of the entire automotive market? It's still pretty small. It's 1.5% based on the 930,000 vehicles that they delivered last year. Obviously, we know that they plan on growing this 50% year over year for the foreseeable future. So as we start getting closer to that, they will take more and more of the automotive market away from other manufacturers, not EV manufacturers. And this is the huge argument that they all have, because they're like, oh, Tesla's losing EV market share. Well, sure they are. That's the natural state of math, literal math. If Tesla had 100% of the market and one other company made one vehicle, Tesla wouldn't have 100% of the market anymore. Even GM's 26 vehicles that they delivered in Q4 of 2021 took market share away from Tesla. That's just how numbers work. But when you're looking at the overall grand scheme of things, it's the automotive market. So what we want to see is Tesla growing their share of the entire automotive market. So if they had 1.5% last year, we want to see them grow. And if they're going to be growing at 50% year over year, then you can say, well, maybe next year they should be at 2.25%. So we'll take a look at that next year when we get to that point. But the numbers that we're going to get out of Q2 are going to be very important. We know that they were held back with Shanghai and everything else going on and the slower ramps in Berlin and Austin. But if they can exceed expectations of around that 250,000 mark, and Troy Teslick is spot on with many of his predictions, so I would definitely follow him on Twitter if you're over there. So following that, if they can beat that, that's in good shape, and we can see how they're going to grow exponentially in Q3 and Q4 of this year. So if they can hit 1.5 million vehicles this year, that's more than a 50% growth. And so then we just have to see what the entire automotive market does at the end of this year to be able to compare the two and see if Tesla actually grew their position for the entire automotive market. And now going back to the interview that Elon had with Tesla owner Silicon Valley, he discussed in that interview how he potentially sees that the Model 3 and the Model Y could be putting out 3 to 4 million units every single year. So, looking at the fact that they haven't even gotten to their entire company to that point yet, that tells me that they're definitely looking to get to that point by the middle of the decade, if not sooner. And if that's the case, then you can look out and say, well, by 2030, they want to have 20 million vehicles. And if Elon is going to be capping them at 3 to 4 million, well, where are the other 7 million vehicles going to be coming from? Well, obviously, Elon has already said it before, there are other models that they are looking at producing. So the robotaxis, who knows how many of those they are going to create. We know that he's talked about a van in the past. And really when it comes down to it, and Elon has said it all the time, when you drop the price of a vehicle by half, the volume goes up by a magnitude of 10. So looking at the fact that they are in a higher end, yes, they're just around the average selling price of vehicles right now when it comes to the Model 3 and the Model Y. But realistically, there is a massive market that is in the lower price range for vehicles. So that would be the natural next step, is that compact car. Obviously, we have nothing concrete to go on for this. We've got a lot of rumors, a lot of insider information about a compact car that's being designed over in Shanghai. And ideally, that's probably the first market that they would start in anyway. So that we know is on the table, but we don't know for sure. Tesla has not confirmed any of that information. But that coming out could be the next step and the next iteration for them to go up, because that vehicle by itself might actually produce 3 to 4 million deliveries every single year. So if you're looking at 3 to 4 million out of the 3 in the Y, 3 to 4 million vehicles out of the compact car, now you're up to 8 million. And then you've got, the Cybertruck and the S and the X and the robotaxis. That could put us up to, the 10 to 12 million vehicle range. And then we've got another 8 million to go. So maybe they come out with something even less expensive that is going to come out later in the decade, maybe in 2027 or 2028. That is a very long ways away. This, just based on the information we have now and what we've been given, seems like that would be the natural progression of things. But who knows? Who knows what's going to happen between now and then? You can let me know in the comments below if you think that this is going to be a reality for the future with a compact car and then an even less expensive vehicle later in the decade. And then the other thing we have to remember is the pricing power that Tesla has. Tesla's making over 30% margins on their vehicles. Nobody else is even close to that. Most other manufacturers aren't even making a profit at all. So this gives Tesla a massive advantage. And not only that, but when you are looking at the cost of the vehicles, the costs of the vehicles are going to be coming down, which means that those margins are going up, which means that Tesla's going to have a significantly higher buffer room to be able to lower prices if need be. So if we get to a point where demand starts to wane or production actually catches up to where the demand is, then Tesla's like, well, what can we do to increase our demand? Well, they can bring prices down significantly because they can still make the money that they're looking to make on them. And by then, we could potentially have FSD out. We could have robotaxis that are pumping out a lot of just pure profit from all those vehicles. So there's a lot of other things that they have coming in that they could make up for with profits and then in turn lower down the price of their vehicles. So who knows? We could have in the future a Model 3 and a Model Y actually be the compact car. Maybe those are the cars that are going to be running for under $35,000, whereas right now they're over $60,000. And like Elon said, if you cut the price in half, you increase the demand by a magnitude of 10. Well, if it's at 60-something thousand now and we drop it down to the low 30,000s, that's cutting the price in half. That could bring demand up by a magnitude of 10, so maybe they don't even need to come out with any other vehicles in the future. These are just my thoughts that are kind of rambling through my head right now, but definitely share yours in the comments below, because these are viable possibilities. Maybe they come out with a compact car and then in the future there's no need for them to come out with anything else because costs have come down so low they could bring the price of the vehicle down, and the price of the EVs can be much less than the price of an ICE vehicle. Makes total sense. We'll see how the future plays out. And just looking at the exponential growth of technology, that's totally a possibility. You go back over 100 years, there were people who were alive during a time when horse and buggy was the only way to travel, and then by the time they died, they actually saw a spaceship take humans to the moon. That is a wild ride to be on in a lifetime. When I was growing up, we were using corded phones. I had a black and white TV at home. We had VCRs. I was playing ColecoVision. The internet wasn't even a thing. And now I have all of that in my pocket. I'm recording it right now, talking to you guys with a video that, 40 years ago, I'm 42, so 42 years ago, this wasn't even a concept you could have thought of unless you had a production studio and you're creating a TV show. That was it. So thinking about how quickly technology advances, and people who are skeptics about, FSD, AI, Optimus, if we have come that far in just 42 years and technology grows exponentially, where do you think we're going to be in another 42 years? Do you truly think that FSD, Optimus, and AI are not going to become reality? I mean, we're progressing in that direction. A lot of people are working on it. It's just a matter of time. And every once in a while, we get that technological advance that just leaps us forward. That would have been the internet and the computer. When we got a computer and the internet put together to be able to go into homes and households, that is when that whole entire thing took off. And that's when technology really started to ramp even faster. AI, I think, is going to be that next piece. We are going to get FSD on the roads for vehicles. That's going to be the first start with AI. And then we're going to have AI take over when it comes to Optimus and really push things forward even further. That is going to be the next exponential ramp growth that we will see for technology. And think about the companies who took advantage of computers and the internet. You had Microsoft, who is definitely a huge winner, IBM, who is still a solid company despite the fact that they're not a growth company anymore, Apple, who was a late player to the game, but they really took off when they came out with the iPhone. And so, you have these technological jumps that, really propel companies going forward. So thinking about Tesla and what they're working on when it comes to AI, wouldn't you want to have invested in Microsoft before they created the giant that they were? Wouldn't you have loved to invested in Apple before they came out and released the iPhone? Well, here we are on the precipice of the point where we can be investing in Tesla before they solve FSD, before they solve AI, and you could really be ahead of the curve before these things come to fruition and really explode the stock. So I put out my price targets in my retirement video over the weekend, and many of you thought, some thought I was conservative and some thought I was liberal. And again, I've always considered myself to be kind of right in the middle because I base my price targets off of what Elon and Tesla have stated their goals are. So I don't put a lot of FSD into it. I don't put any AI into it because those have not come reality yet. So as far as I am concerned with my price targets, those are based off of mostly just EVs, a little bit of energy, and a little bit of robotaxi. That's it. So if they actually become reality, those can grow exponentially even higher. And yes, it's true. There are a lot of ifs in all of those statements. So when it comes down to investing, you've got to do your own due diligence and research. Do you think that Tesla is actually going to solve these things? In my opinion, if Tesla is going to solve these things, it is going to be the absolute best investment you could possibly make in your generation and your next generation's generation. That is going to be the future for us going forward. That is just my opinion. I'm not a financial advisor and I don't have a crystal ball. But that is just my opinion. You've got to do your own research, but let me know in the comments below if you think Tesla has the ability to make all of these things become reality. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate all of your support and feedback. If you have not subscribed, please do so down below. Sign yourself up for notifications. I am over on Twitter at OracleTim1. I share all the latest Tesla news, pertinent stock market information, and all of my daily trades. We do have a Discord chat. That link is in the description. And if you'd like to support the channel any further, I do have a Patreon, and that link is also in the description. Thank you so much. Have a great one.